Propaganda. This week we will be working with the idea of propaganda. The truth behind advertising. The first type of propaganda that we will look at this week is bandwagon. This technique involves encouraging people to think or act in some way simply because other people are doing so. Here is a Coca-Cola ad. The top of this Coca-Cola ad reads, "The drink everybody knows." This ad is bandwagon advertising because it is basically assuming that you want to be like everybody and you want to know the drink that everybody knows. So this type of propaganda is bandwagon. The next type of propaganda is snob appeal or plain folks appeal. These are sort of opposite ends of the spectrum with snob appeal and plain folks appeal. This technique involves making a claim that one should act or think in a certain way because of the social status associated with the action or thought. The reason I said that they are sort of opposite ends of the spectrum is because the social status that snob appeals deals with is the elite status. Plain folks is just the average Joe. If we look at these two examples, the first one reads, "If your coffee isn't perfect, we'll make it over. If it's still not perfect, make sure you're in a Starbucks." This is targeting the elite coffee drinker, basically saying that if you really know your coffee, then you should be at Starbucks, where you can get the best cup of coffee. Sort of coffee snobs. So you can see how it is snob appeal. The next example here is a Subway example, and they are using a plain fellow that has lost weight to appeal to you to come eat at Subway. Basically saying, hey, we have healthy food, you could lose weight, you're an average guy or an average person just like this guy, and he has ate at Subway. So this is plain folks appeal, appealing to just the regular average person. The next is glittering generalities. This technique is an emotionally appealing phrase so closely associated with highly valued concepts and beliefs that it carries conviction without supporting information or reason. Let me show you an example of this. Okay, this is a Gatorade ad, and it says, "Gatorade always wins." This is a generalization that if you drink Gatorade, you are going to win whatever it is you're doing, whether you're playing a sport or and it really is hitting more towards the athletes. We can see here that it looks as though they're on a track. And the Gatorade bottle has a track running number on it. So basically, this is a generalization that if you drink Gatorade, you are going to be able to compete well. Okay, and that competing well is a highly valued concept or belief. Okay, but there is no supporting reason for saying that if you drink Gatorade, you'll win. Okay, so it's a glittering generality. The next is loaded words or name calling. This technique involves using words with strong positive or negative connotations or associations. This is a use of words that are charged with emotion. This ad for Palm Wonderful has some pretty strong words on here. It says cheat death, not to mention the fact that it has a noose around the bottle of drink here. So it has some pretty strong words and a pretty strong picture that is leading you to believe that this product is going to help you cheat death. Okay, so those are pretty loaded words. When you have something like cheating death, that is pretty loaded. The next one, name calling. Here we see a picture of Barack Obama with a long nose, like a Pinocchio nose, and it says lies. And this piece of propaganda is basically calling Barack Obama a liar. So this is a political piece of propaganda. Not always truthful, but definitely involves words with strong positive or negative connotations. Okay? This is very emotionally charged. The next type of propaganda is transfer propaganda. This technique involves making an illogical association between one thing and something else that is generally viewed as positive or negative. Here we see, in this ad for Marlboro cigarettes, we see a gentleman who is a cowboy, and basically the association here is that this cowboy, this handsome, strong cowboy, somehow has something to do with smoking cigarettes. It says, come to where the flavor is. They want you to believe that if you smoke cigarettes, then you're going to be a handsome, strong cowboy. And there is no logical connection between smoking cigarettes and becoming a strong, handsome cowboy. So this is the transfer technique. Next, we have the unreliable testimony. This technique involves having an unqualified person endorse a product, action, or opinion. Here we can see Britney Spears is promoting or advertising for Proactive Solution. Britney Spears is not a scientist. She is not in any way a chemist, and that basically makes her pretty unqualified to endorse this product. Also, her testimony, we're not even entirely sure that she had any kind of acne problems before using the product. So it's a pretty unreliable testimony. I don't know that I've ever seen any pictures of Britney Spears where she's had, or videos where she's had a lot of acne and needed something done. So that makes this a pretty unreliable testimony. Next, we have fear. This technique plays on the human emotion fear in hopes to direct the audience toward the desired goal. In the deepest sense, propaganda is a mind game. The skillful propagandist exploits people's fear. Okay, this is an example of propaganda. Okay, it says you'll never worry about lipstick on your teeth again. And this is an ad to not do meth. Okay, this is a drug and alcohol ad. And in this case, they are appealing to your fear for what I would say is a good cause. But it is still fear propaganda. Okay, they are playing on the human emotion of the fear of having a mouth and face that looks like this. And you are fearful of this, so you won't do meth. As I said, this is, in my mind, a positive use of fear propaganda. Most advertising is generally not positive. But this is an example. I did want to give you an example of propaganda used for good. Okay. Next, we have card stacking. And this technique seeks to manipulate the audience's perception of an issue or product by emphasizing positive buzzwords that have little defined meaning or meaningless statistics. If we look at this ad, it says 40% less fat, 30% less calories, big taste. Excuse me. Here we see several rather meaningless statistics, okay? And things like fat and calories and those sort of buzzwords, okay, are where they're putting their emphasis on. So when we see buzzwords, even like organic and all natural and pure, these words are not defined well, so that gives them a lot less credibility and they're a lot more meaningless. So just like the statistics on this ad are rather meaningless. So these are your different propagandas. I'm going to go back to the beginning here and go through them all again. Bandwagon, snob or plain folk appeal, glittering generalities, loaded words or name calling, transfer, unreliable testimony, fear, and card stacking. I have put these onto a printout for you of 2 pages so that you have them to look at while doing your lessons and or while doing your assignments, while doing your assignments this week.